I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons first. Thank you so much to my Bibliospren, Bibliohowlers, and my Bibliomancers. It means a lot to me that you give me your extra support for my passion and hobby. Hi everyone, Petrik here. Today I will be talking about all the books that I finished reading last month. And last month I managed to finish, again, only about 5 novels. Well, to me that is still very good. To be more precise, this is 4 novels and also 1 novella. And this is a good. As far as quality goes, this is really a good reading month. And finally, after 4 months of reading in 2024, I finally found the second 5 stars book of this year. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? I don't know, maybe it is me or maybe it is just the books that I chose. But so far, I don't know, I just found only 2 books that received a full 5 out of 5 stars rating. But you know what? This is still a great reading month. But as far as quantity goes, 5 books, I wish I could read more than 5 books. But the first book that I finished last month, it took me 2 weeks to actually finish. And this is not because I did not like the book. I actually really loved it. I'm talking about The Witchwood Crown by Ted Williams. This is the first book in The Last King of Wostenard. It is about 350,000 words long. So yeah, it is a big novel. It is almost as big as The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I think The Way of Kings is about 380,000 words long, so it is pretty close. But anyway, the writing style, Ted Williams' writing style, do take some time for me to digest, on top of me being super busy, but I do like to savor Ted Williams' writing style. His writing is beautiful, melancholic, and also very immersive. It is good to be back in the world of Wostenard again. And The Witchwood Crown is the first book in The Last King of Wostenard. It takes place about 3 decades after the end of the Green Angel Tower. And for those of you who keep on asking me about this, don't worry, I have read The Heart of What Was Lost, the bridge short novel after the Green Angel Tower, but before the Witchwood Crown. Yeah, I have read that, and yeah, I can definitely confirm that it is a very important short novel. If you haven't read that, but you have finished reading To Green Angel Tower, I strongly recommend you to read The Heart of What Was Lost first before diving into The Witchwood Crown. But this is definitely epic fantasy at its finest. Again, even though there are some parts that definitely felt too slow, but overall it is not a big issue. If you have read Ted Williams' books, whether it is only the Dragonbone Chair or maybe the entire Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, then you will know the entire trilogy is really a slow burn. And the same thing can be applied to The Witchwood Crown as well. But this time, in this book, not only it features the returning characters from the first trilogy, but it also features a lot of new characters. But this is what Ted Williams does best. Not only about the world building, but also the characters, both the returning and also the new characters. All of them are really engaging to me, even if some were incredibly infuriating. If you have read this book, you will know the spoiled brat that I'm thinking of. But yeah, it is the grandson of our hero from Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, Simon and also Miriamel. This spoiled brat is their grandson, but although I must say, even though I was so insanely infuriated with this character, I must admit that this character story is very compelling. It is so difficult to put down, and I have a good feeling that his journey throughout this entire 4 books will be rewarding. I really love The Witchwood Crown. It is not as good as the Dragonbone Chair, in my opinion, but for the first book of a series, this is an incredible start. And if you want to know my full thoughts regarding The Witchwood Crown, you can definitely check out my full review on Goodreads and also on my blog, Novel Notions. But for now, I would just say that I have a good feeling that the second book, Empire of Grass, will be even better than The Witchwood Crown. And I think this choice of cover art, illustrated by Michael Whelan, the legendary Michael Whelan, when I first saw this cover art, I was thinking, why? Why this cover art? Why this scene? But after I have read the book, I finally get it. Yeah, it is an important scene in the entire novel. But if there's one thing that The Witchwood Crown did better than the Dragonbone Chair, I think it is the scope. For the first book of a series, the scope in The Witchwood Crown is massive. It really involves every characters from every part of the world of Wostenard, really. And they are all integral to the entire narrative. I expect every POV characters in the Witchwood Crown will become even more important in the second book. There were characters that definitely surprised me, like Jarnulf and also the villains. Yeah, if you have read the Heart of What Was Lost, then you will know that the city and the Norns are even more important to the story now. Somehow, they are even more important to the story than before. And we are finally getting the perspective of the villains in the Heart of What Was Lost and also in the Witchwood Crown. And I think including something like this always elevate the reading experience. I like reading perspective from the protagonist and also from the antagonist. There are plenty of surprises to be experienced from reading the antagonist perspective in the Witchwood Crown. They are not your simple, typical antagonist with no depth. That is not the case with the villains in the Witchwood Crown and also with the protagonists. They are complex, they all come with different personality and also motivations. And also in the case of Simon, I must say that the topic of aging and also feeling like you are longing for the past, even though it's not like Simon did not suffer in the past, it's not something like that, but we as individuals, we like to think that our past is better than the present. Well, not super better, but there are some things that once it has transpired, it can transform into good memories. And I think Simon is experiencing that a lot in the Witchwood Crown. And well, you have to read this. If you haven't read Memory, Sorrow, and Dawn trilogy, I strongly recommend you to do that. And if you love that trilogy, you must try reading the Witchwood Crown as well. I'm so excited to be reading Empire of Grass, most likely next month. As far as my rating goes, I gave this one, for now, a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating. I have a good feeling that maybe on second read, this one will actually improve. On my second read of the Witchwood Crown, I think my rating will increase because from reading this one, there are certain things, there are many things in this book that I feel it is foreshadowing the events to come in the sequels, and I look forward to finding out what they will be. Seriously though, when it comes to writing and also world building, it is difficult to find many writers that can do it better than Ted Williams did. Moving on to the second book that I finished last month, and of course it is one of my favorite books of the year, and this is the book that received another 5 out of 5 stars rating, and it is Disquiet Gods by Christopher Ruocchio, the 6th and the penultimate installment in the Sun Eater series. I absolutely love the cover art by Kieran Yanner. I absolutely love the book. I have posted a full spoiler-free review of every book in the Sun Eater series on my YouTube channel, from Empire of Silence up to Disquiet Gods. I haven't done that for, I don't think I have ever done that for any big series on my YouTube channel. So yeah, this is a first, and I think it is well deserved because, as I constantly said, this is a series that in my opinion will become a classic in the future for sci-fi. It is that good, and I still have a hard time deciding which one I love most between Demon in White, Kingdoms of Death, and also Disquiet Gods. But I will let you know my answer in the months to come. But for now, yeah, this is an amazing book. It was worth the wait. It feels bittersweet to have read every book in the Sun Eater series. Not only Disquiet Gods, but also the collection of novellas and novels, and plus the collection of short stories. Yeah, I have read them all. I have read all the main novels, and now I wait for the next novellas, collection of short stories, or of course the main novel. The last main novel in the Sun Eater series, Shadows Upon Time, the 7th and the final book in the Sun Eater. But Disquiet Gods, it reminded me of reading Demon in White again. And that is a massively high praise. If you have read Demon in White and you love the Sun Eater, then you will know I'm not saying that claim lightly. Demon in White is such a masterpiece in science fantasy or science fiction, whatever you want to call this series. And having the story structure in Disquiet Gods replicate the one in Demon in White again, it made me super happy. I loved it very much, the exploration, the mind-blowing elements that I cannot talk about without going into spoiler territory, but we get a lot of answers in Disquiet Gods. We have to. This is the 6th book after all. This is the penultimate book after all. We have to receive some answers in this book, and we did receive a lot of answers. This doesn't mean that we don't have some questions regarding some events. There are still plenty of plot lines to resolve, and I believe Christopher Ruocchio will be able to resolve that in Shadows Upon Time. But this one, whether it is the first part, the second part, the third part, there are 5 parts. There are 5 story arcs in Disquiet Gods, and every one of them, they are brilliant in their own way. My favorite probably will have to be the third one in Planet Forum. I really love everything that went on in that planet. Really, everything about Disquiet Gods, it was brilliant. If you want to know my full thoughts, really just check out my full spoiler-free review of Disquiet Gods on my YouTube channel. Love this very much, and I have to applaud Christopher Ruocchio once again for creating such a marvelous book. But you know, I got some questions because I have finished reading everything in the Sun Eater, and I got some questions whether I will still be making Sun Eater content. Of course, and the first one will most likely be a special edition review of Empire of Silence Diamond Edition. It should be coming in the month of May, within this month. Once it is here, I will immediately do a special edition review of the Diamond Edition. I cannot wait. I'm so excited to see how beautiful this special edition will be. But yeah, even without that, I will still be making some Sun Eater content for sure. So if you are a Sun Eater fans, then I think it is a yay for you. If you haven't read the series, I strongly recommend you to do it, and hopefully you will become a fan of the series just like me and also many other readers. But yeah, this is an amazing book, and it really fills my heart with joy every time I get messages from people saying that they started reading the Sun Eater because of my reviews on YouTube and Goodreads. It makes me happy, and I hope many of you keep on having a blast reading the series, and many other series that I recommend as well, of course. But yeah, moving on to the next one. After Disquiet Gods, I needed to read a small book. So I decided to read this novella. This is a prequel novella to the Blood and Steel saga by E.J. Doble. This is The Crown of Omens, and this is a short book. It is only about, I think, 100 pages long. And this entire grimdark novella, written by a relatively young author for a fantasy and sci-fi author, this entire grimdark novella is essentially a battle or a siege told from the perspective of 10 POV characters. If you haven't read The Fangs of War yet, but you want to try sampling E.J. Doble's writing or storytelling, you can try from reading The Crown of Omens. This is shorter, and you can definitely find out whether you will gel with the author's writing style or not, especially when it comes to the battle scene. But I think this one, the battle scene, is actually really good. If you have read The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie, this is what the author did. I'm talking about when a POV character is killed by someone, that someone becomes the next POV character, and it goes on and on and on until the end of the novella. So yeah, it is about 9 main characters being killed off until the last one. I am a fan of this kind of sequence. I am quite surprised actually that not too many authors have tried to replicate what Abercrombie did in his First Law world, because I think it creates a seamless sense of battle scenes, and also it shows just how brutal war can be from the perspective of both sides or more. I think it did a great job of doing that, and E.J. Doble did the same thing in The Crown of Omens. So for this one, what was lacking for me? Well, it was the characterizations, because this is a prequel novella told from the perspective of mostly unnamed main characters that will die in one chapter. It is a bit difficult to really feel invested in some of them, even though their perspective were well written, but still it did not feel too in-depth, understandably, because this is a short novella and we don't know any of these characters. To be fair though, for some of the POV characters, especially for the first half portion of The Crown of Omens, I think E.J. Doble did a great job in showing their background as efficiently and effectively as possible. But overall, I do not think this actually adds a lot to The Fangs of War. I haven't read The Horns of Grief yet. I heard The Horns of Grief, the second book in the Blood and Steel saga, is the best book in the series so far, and I would try to get to that within this month. But for now, which one will I recommend as a great starting point? I think if you want something more detailed, more immersive, and also, well, better characterizations, I think you should try from The Fangs of War. But if you want to try just really to sample the writing style from the author first before diving into the big novels, then try The Crown of Omens. I honestly gave this one and also The Fangs of War, both of them, a 3.5 out of 5 stars rating. I think they are good novels, and I think the author can definitely improve. Still plenty of room for improvement in the next book, and I think he will achieve that because the background and also the world building and the lore have been established in The Fangs of War and The Crown of Omens. I look forward to seeing how everything will improve in the Horns of Grief. And after that, the fourth book that I finished, it is Bonds of Chaos by Zack Argyle. The Bonds of Chaos is the third and the final book in the Threadlight trilogy. And yes, I read everything in the Threadlight trilogy using this beautiful deluxe omnibus edition that was published through Kickstarter campaign from the author. And I'm really glad I did. I think this is the ultimate experience of reading Threadlight trilogy. The Threadlight trilogy, one of my priority series that I want to start and finish this year, and that satisfyingly, yes, it did. I think overall it was very satisfying. I gave every book in the Threadlight trilogy a 4 out of 5 stars. I think they are consistently great in quality. If there's one thing that can be categorized maybe as a criticism, well, not really a criticism, but I think it is unfulfilled potential, is how short the trilogy is. I know I have talked about this in my recent Epic Fantasy is Dead video, Epic Fantasy is Dying video, but yeah, I think Threadlight trilogy is a great example that it can turn into something even more incredible if it actually received more page count. Because Zack Argyle is a great author, he is a great storyteller, and with the world building and also the lore that he has established throughout the Threadlight trilogy, 1,000 years of history, I feel like it has so much more room for improvement and also immersion. I wanted more out of the history of the Threadlight trilogy, out of the heralds, from the magic. I think the narrative will benefit from having more exposure and details on this. So I don't know, maybe one day Zack Argyle will go back to writing some books in the Threadlight trilogy. I definitely will not complain if that happens. But as far as conclusion goes, as I said, this is a non-stop, fast-paced reading experience, and it is, well, brimming with emotions. And also, I really love what Zack Argyle did with the climax sequence in Bonds of Chaos. It is definitely my favorite in the trilogy. I think the themes of family, found family, responsibility, leadership, and friendship that course throughout the entire trilogy were executed very effectively with, well, relatively small number of pages. It is incredible. I loved it. And as I said, the climax sequence in this one, it was unputdownable. It was so good. It reminded me of Sanderlanche, which I believe, of course, is one of Zack Argyle's main inspiration behind the creation of Threadlight trilogy. And you know, Bonds of Chaos became my favorite in the Threadlight trilogy. One of the main reasons, on top of having a satisfying and also engaging climax sequence and ending, but one of the main reasons is because the main characters of the entire trilogy, they are always together in Bonds of Chaos. I think doing this actually diminished my relative lack of interest with one of the main characters, Laurel. And I think Laurel improved quite a lot in Bonds of Chaos. My favorite character in the Threadlight trilogy though, I thought it would be Chris, but I think after reading through the entire trilogy, it will have to be Alvarax. I think he's the character that definitely developed the most throughout the entire trilogy. Chris is great. I have always liked him from the first book, but I do not think he developed a lot as a character throughout the entire trilogy. Alvarax, though, is another story, and I really love the character arc of Alvarax. So yeah, I'm very satisfied with reading Bonds of Chaos, with reading Threadlight trilogy, and I definitely will look forward to reading Zack Argyle's upcoming fantasy book. I think the title is Symphony of the Skies. If you haven't read the Threadlight trilogy yet, I have to repeat what I said. If you want to read something reminiscent of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books, but in a shorter, in a more compact version, you cannot go wrong with reading Threadlight trilogy. And finally, the last novel that I finished last month, it was Demon by Rob J. Hayes. Now, I know in my April TBR video, I talk about Herald being my Patreon's pick for my book of the month. But I kept on having this dilemma on whether I should read Demon or Herald first. Demon, Deathless, and Herald, they are all part of the God Eater saga. They are all the first book of a series within a bigger series called the God Eater saga. But after I tried reading the first chapter of Demon, well, as it turns out, I end up reading through the entire novel in one day. So as you can probably tell, it is an incredible novel. It is a short novel. It's about 60,000 words long. I mean, that's almost a novella. But yeah, it is awesome. And I just realized that reading Demon, it made me remember that something greedy, violent, is something that I do need in my epic fantasy sometimes. I have missed reading something as intense and dark as Demon. I think Demon is actually the darkest story from Rob J. Hayes that I have ever read. And yeah, it is a great one. I really loved it. I haven't written my full spoiler-free review of this one, but I will after I record this video. But Demon, it takes place 3,000 years before the events of Herald, and I think 2,000 years before the events of Deathless. Deathless, I will read that within this month. Herald, I will read that next month. But for this one, for Demon, it centers around a character named Din. Din or Dien. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the character. I will just call the character Din for now. The writing is D-I-E-N. But yeah, I will pronounce it as Din for now. But anyway, Din is a very likable character, and she immediately went through an insane amount of torment and pain throughout Demon. It is really brutal, a really violent and brutal book. Definitely not for the faint of heart. I kind of refuse to call this a grimdark novel. For now anyway, I don't know whether the rest of the trilogy will become a grimdark series, but for now, I still won't call this one a grimdark novel despite its violence, because the main character is a good character. She is a kind-hearted character who is loyal to her friends and also want to do what's best for her friends and also well for herself, I guess, even though she is angry. And there are definitely revenge story going on in the theme of Demon, but still she is a good-hearted character. And I really love her friendship with one of the characters, Helena, and the despicable characters in this one, they are all despicables. So I believe Rob J. Hayes did a great job in writing the protagonist and also the antagonist of Demon. There are things that happen at the end of Demon that definitely makes me, well, it made me super excited to read Deathless as soon as possible. But if you haven't read the God Eater Saga, if you haven't known anything about it, there are angels in the God Eater Saga, and somehow, from my experience, for whatever reason, angels do not appear a lot in epic fantasy, not as much as dragons and other creatures anyway. The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne or the Banished Land Saga has them, but not a lot. Not a lot of epic fantasy that I have read contain angels, but the God Eater Saga do have them, and even though Demon is such a short novel, their appearance was still mega impactful. I cannot wait to read more about them as well, and also the continuation of Dean's story. But I think that will have to wait until the second phase of the God Eater Saga. It means that Rob J. Hayes is writing all the first book together at once, and then all the second book together at once, and eventually all the final book of the 3 trilogies at once. So yeah, it is an interesting reading experience, and well, I look forward to finding out how I will feel about everything once I have read them. But for now, I would just say that Demon is a great book. It is the kind of book that I will recommend to readers who are feeling a bit slumpy in reading epic fantasy and want something shorter and impactful. This is a great example. So yeah, that's really all the books that I finished last month in the month of April. And as you can probably tell, my book of the month, it will have to be Disquiet Gods by Christopher Ruocchio. As I said in the beginning of this video, I have only 2 books this year. Not counting reread, I have only 2 books that receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating from me. And those 2 are from the Sun Eater. So yeah, this is the second one. Finally, 5 stars rating. And hopefully, I will have more of them in the months to come. I gave the Witchwood Crown and also Demon, both of them a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating. But yeah, that's all the books that I finished in the month of April. Do tell me what you think about the books that I finished last month. And of course, let me know how many books you finished in the month of April and which one was your favorite. As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye-bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.